The launch of the six-part second series of the Living Building program. The first one drew a great deal of discerning attention, not only from students for whom this is dedicated, but also from working professionals and industry leaders. Today we have Sanjeev Kharke. Sanjeev Shashikant Kharke has been working for nearly 2 decades now, a decade and a half plus, on bamboo. I first heard of his work some years ago, but I didn't really connect with him. 2 weeks, or was it 3 weeks ago, Niranjan Khatri, another green champion who is present today as a distinguished special guest for this program, talked to me about his work. Niranjan has been particularly passionate and obsessed, shall we say, in a nice way, with how rapid renewables can become part of mainstream when it comes to building materials and construction into the future. This is a new series. It took an effort to curate. We had to find six such innovators who could present their version of what they see India going into, especially to do with design and architecture. As designers and architects and as smart engineers, your edge as a professional will come with unique and innovative slants that you bring to the way you will create things or offer options to a client. Your challenge as architects and as engineers and business managers is even more acute in a world that has nearly run out of extractable resources. As, as students, I'm sure you're beginning to see what it means not to have many of the materials that our generation, my older generation, has gotten used to. Think of it this way. Over the next 20,000 days, or about 50 years, all our limestone deposits in the world will be wiped out. A large chunk of limestone in India is imported from Morocco. Many of you will perhaps not know that. How will we manufacture cement if we don't have limestone to reckon with? And at the current rate, as I said, it will last for perhaps 20,000 days. Iron ore for steel will become a challenge. Stone, or aggregators, engineers call these things, called crushed stone, will have to come from farther distance. Synthetic materials will soon not be an option, for again they bleed the earth of her exhausted resources. If we plunder this residual repository of biodiversity that we have, and we kill our tribal forests and rivers, you will threaten lives of all of us as humans. There'll be no wildlife left anyway. All of your students, I would urge you to take a trip to say Angul or to Kyonjhar in Odisha, ride from Bilaspur in Chhattisgarh right up north towards towards the northern part of Odisha and spill over into say Jharkhand, and you will see what I am talking about. It's horrendous when you get into a mining site. You could walk or ride for miles on end in in, uh, in and around a thermal plant, and you will see mountains of fly ash, all of which is done for you and I to have the comfort of power or materials for construction of our homes and offices. Bricks, well, it means we excavate precious topsoil without which food will be threatened. Civilizations in the not so distant past of only 2,500 years or so have perished in less than 60 years when the soils went saline with excessive abuse. You take away topsoil, there is no civilization possible, there is no life possible for any living species. Remember that the Indus Valley civilization died in less than 60 or 80 years by what historians have unearthed so far. So, what are resources into the future? How are we going to reduce the use of extracted resources while we find other materials to make buildings that we all need? It is against this extremely difficult backdrop of the future that we have devised this iconic India Innovations Dialogue. as part of the larger Living Building series at the St. Jain Memorial Trust. Bamboo is an amazing material for the tensile strength it offers and the abundance with which it grows as it hungers for sunlight. There are over 1,000 species of bamboo, as Sanjeev will tell you as an expert, and as the reference reading material that we have already hosted at the St. Jain Memorial website shows. But only a handful of these bamboo species are actually suited for building. I will leave that part of the discussion to Sanjeev as he presents today. The Chinese have used bamboo scaffolds for centuries, but have in recent years banned their use on the count of safety. Why? Because the skills needed for crafting work with this wonderful grass is greater than what is needed for conventional building materials. Many mistake bamboo for wood. It's a grass species, remember. It's amazing for the growth some of these species, subspecies of bamboo, actually see. One of them grows nearly 35 inches every 24 hours, as the reference reading material will offer you. On the chat box, you will see the link to the reference reading material in a few minutes, and I'm hoping will read it if you have not already read it since Monday when it was posted. Using bamboo with skill, with inventive thinking, and with trained craftsmanship can make for a fusion of artisanal skills that go back a long time in India and design aesthetics that the urban markets need. If Sanjeev has got workers in his company or in his organization, which is clearly a social enterprise, they are not just workers. These are people who have drawn from traditions of such artisanal talent that India has had for centuries. Until people like Sanjeev came along in the last few years, work with bamboo was associated with low-cost housing for the poor. The execution was poor, the finishes were short of expectation. As you will see today, Sanjeev is among the few leaders in this sector who has changed all that. He has done for many architects you know as prominent ones in India. His work is in demand, and his asset is his own inventive genius and the skills of his craftsmen. He runs it not as a business, but as a family of people. They are not workers, as you will see, and as Niranjan will tell you as we go along. He lives simply and brings humility and sharpness of response for the business community whom he works with. He understands the imperatives of business, of cost, and of time. Some of the well-known companies that you all know about have commissioned him for creating some iconic structures with uniquely Indian innovations. You'll see some of these pictures, they're staggering. We will get to his presentation soon enough. Remember that he is an electrical engineer. Look at such disciplinary learning, but brings an experience of structurals that is truly amazing. And conscious of the fact that NRSF is here, like Dr. Subnit also, I think, present in this group today. When architects commission work with Sanjay, they sit back. They don't have to work. From structural to design values, his team marry an ecosystem of consciousness to the needs of practical creation. He's one man I know who has made building with bamboo a luxury experience on the low-cost housing mode that it was some 10 plus years ago. I welcome Sanjeev to this virtual studio of the Living Building program. Morning, Sanjay, and namaste to you. It is Niranjan Sakhi, as I said, a true green warrior who prompted me to look at securing Sanjeev for this presentation today. You must remember that beyond what Sanjeev is going to show you, and I'm hoping that Niranjan will speak about this, there are today a multiple range of products, from bamboo bottles that are available, if you see, to furniture spots, and a whole host of other things that one can make with this magic grass. Finishes in India have been a challenge. Even Sri Lanka or Indonesia or Vietnam come up with such exquisite finish that you marvel at the unique marriage of such ecosystem skills and the sophistication of finishes that appeal to the urban consumer. Payal Jain is a fashionista, and someone like her will appreciate how artisan things can marry. Artisan things can marry with such urban design requirements. Many of the older generation will know of the old song, The House of Bamboo, 1955. Number 54, The house with the bamboo door, bamboo roof and bamboo walls. They've even got a bamboo floor. Welcome once again to the second of the Living Building program. My thanks go to all the faculty mentors and deans and directors and professors who have persuaded their students in different disciplines in many colleges across many cities to be part of this second of the Living Building series. If we go to the Living Building program section, you'll see all past record presentations. Check them out if you are new to us. There is a wealth of information that we are building at that site of the St. James Memorial Trust. You will look it up, I'm sure it will new to us. I welcome our special guest of the day, Niranjan. As I said, you and I are friends for very, very long years. We share a city, we live in Bangalore, both of us. We share deep values. We've done inspiring work post his retirement from a large hotel chain that he served for nearly 43 or 44 years. His passion for water conservation is rooted in a deep understanding of the larger concern on the destruction of the planet. Niranjan, welcome to the series. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for making time for being with us at the studio today. I think of you and I think of Dr. Prem Jain. As many of us do, you will have some striking memory of the time you met him or heard him speak or chatted him up. Would you want to share some such moments with the young students here with us today before we hand the mic to Sanjeev for his presentation? Over to you, Niranjan.
Thank you, Hari. Jule to all the panelists and all the participants across geography. Jule is a greeting form from Leh Ladakh, which covers good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm assuming that people from various global geographies are present in this. So a very efficient form of greeting in one word. And in the bargain, I think we have learned about diversity by very few words. So having said this, I'd like to start my speech by remembering late Dr. Prem Jain, very wonderful person. And he was aware of many of our initiatives in ITC hotels. But the initiative which he always talked about in public forum was the initiative that we started for people with disabilities. I can go on talking about him for a long time, but in the interest of time, I'll stop here. With regards to Mr. Karpe, I hardly know him. I met him once, maybe in a meeting, and one-to-one, we had a 5 minutes meeting. But with the little that he talked about his projects and the quality of work impressed me. And therefore, I suggested his name to Hari. You might be aware that there's a bamboo mission in the country, which the government of India started. And this initiative has to be scaled up by various stakeholders to give it the eminence that it deserves. Unfortunately, today the mindset with regards to bamboo is that's a poor man's resource. This myth must be dispelled very quickly with all the bright minds which we have in this webinar to take care of the building construction needs in the future. It's very well articulated by Hari that, we're going to run short of cement material which is imported from Morocco. I will be amiss in my duty if I talk only about bamboo. Hence, I will talk about forest briefly and then come to bamboo. I got into compensatory depository afforestation in 1989 when my knowledge about forest was that of a kindergarten student. It all happened because I asked my engineer, how many trees have we cut to make that particular hotel that I was running? And he gave me a figure, X figure. And I said, oh my God, this is a significant number of trees gone for making a hotel. And I told him to plant 20 X trees on the islands. But we could not plant 20 X trees because the island has 87% forest cover. So we had to dilute our dreams and we planted 1,500 saplings in the barren land of the airport. We knew this initiative was a very nano drop. It was neither here or there. But what we did was that we put up a huge hoarding in the airport that planting trees is every individual and organization's responsibility. And since then, a lot of people have gone into afforestation, but the pace of planting is very slow compared to the pace of decimation of forests. Many of you must be knowing that the deforestation is happening at the pace of 1.5 acres per second. So by the time this webinar is over, close to about 300-400 acres of virgin forest would have gone. And I was reading a report yesterday which said that only last year alone, the world lost 930,000 acres of land globally, and that also prime tropical forest land. Now, most of you know that there are two kinds of forests broadly, temperate and tropical. The temperate forest feature is that it has only about 15 to 20 species of plants and trees in 1 acre, vis-a-vis tropical forest, where you have about 120 to 150 species of plants and trees. And you also might be aware that the food that we eat, the potato, the cocoa, the coffee, and many other wild varieties of rice and medicine comes from the gene pool of the tropical forest. And unfortunately, the tropical forests are being decimated at a horrible rate. And if I recall right, last year in Amazon alone, 9,500 square kilometers of forest was knocked off for purpose of farming, for cattle farming, for beef supply to the OECD countries. Now, it's also important to understand the different facets of a forest. In the forest, there's something called the emergent layer. They're like the steeples of a church or a mosque. And below that is the top layer, emergent layer, and then a middle layer, then an understory, and then you have a bed of dry leaves on the floor of the forest. So when it rains, it falls step by step on each of these segments and then seeps into the ground, and therefore you get water in a very slow form for 6-7 months in a year. A very interesting study was done in Côte d'Azur somewhere in the 90s to find out what is the soil erosion in forested area vis-a-vis non-forested areas. And the results are startling. In forested areas, the soil erosion is about 38 kilos per year, vis-a-vis non-forested areas, about 138 tons per year. No wonder our rivers look brown during rainy weather.
Right, yeah. How do you connect this to the significance of the work that people like Sanjeev do?
I'm just coming to that.
Yeah.
So, having given you this broad perspective, the idea of popularizing bamboo is that immense amount of tropical forest wood is being used in construction and many other activities. And therefore, if bamboo timber is made, and I believe it's available, there's a gentleman called Mr. Mehta in Hyderabad. He showed me these samples in IGBC meetings from 10, 12 years back. If that is available, and if it's shown to any of you, you'll not be able to make out whether it's teak, sal, or is it bamboo. So if we have the wealth of bamboo in our country, I don't know how many varieties are there. One version says 22 varieties. Just now I heard 1,000 varieties. We need to check on that. But whatever it is, we have the largest quantity of bamboo after China. But we have not leveraged it like China. So in order to mainstream the subject, there's a great opportunity of making simple things like, pen stand, bindi ka dabba, that sindoor that ladies use, a whole host of products which can be used in the garden also to grow vegetables or plants, flowers or what have you. So if this kind of products are mainstreamed, then it will come in the perceptual arena of people's mind. Today, like I mentioned, it's considered a poor man's resource, and that myth has to be eliminated. Bamboo is a rapidly renewable material, and its tensile strength is twice that of steel. And the embodied energy of bamboo vis-a-vis steel is 30 as against 1,500 units of energy used for making steel. The technical details of this will be given by Mr. Karpe. It's a great opportunity for the construction industry to lower their cost of construction for individual homes or even in multi-storied buildings by making innovative use of bamboo on a significant scale. Today, the scale is not there in urban areas, and this needs to be rectified. And I'm sure Mr. Karpe will talk a little more on this. Yeah, with regards to bamboo, we have a issue in our country with regards to dowry. Can the bamboo industry encouraged the rural girls to plant 18 bamboo saplings at the age of 13, so that by the age of 18 or 19, when they've grown up, they have full-fledged 18 bamboos available for them. And if they could be taught how to make a very elegant bamboo home, then they get married with their dowry, which has grown over the 7 or 8 years. So we need to bring about these kind of radical ideas into a system to make bamboo popular not only in urban areas, but in rural areas also. And I request that now that monsoon has set in, I hope all the participants over here will at least plant one bamboo sapling, if not any other sapling, so that we enhance the green cover. Thank you.
Sure. I'll come back to you, toward the end of the conversation after Sanjeev has presented.
Right.
Let me tell you all children, from these colleges that Sanjeev in just the last, say, 10 or 15 days has addressed probably 6,000 or 7,000 people over various webinars. Post-COVID, this has been a blessing for all of us. Imagine getting 2,000 people to be sitting there physically in a conference hall or some such. The cost of doing such things are incredible. And what the webinars have done is offered us a wonderful platform for disseminating, sharing information of this kind. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Muralidharan of the Kerala Forest Research Institute. So Sanjeev Bhai, you've got an eminent forest expert also in the group today. And now it's over to you. You could share your screen and take whatever time you need. I know you're very flexible on how much you can take a time, but take 45, 50 minutes or whatever. Give them all that fantastic experience of the work that you're doing. Over to you, Sanjeev.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me thank you all organizers for giving me this opportunity. I need to share a screen, so you have to allow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Take your minute. Yeah.
So when we talk about bamboo, I'm very sure that the first thing which will come to your mind is material for either poor or material for temporary use. And a youngster may feel that, oh, why bamboo here? There are technology. This is a time of technology, and why we are talking about a material which is a very old and cheap, and non-durable. So everybody should first know that a bamboo is a grass. It is the fastest replenishing raw material on earth. Okay, and in a time of lot of carbon emission during the production of material like steel, cement, plastic, glass, this is the material which actually emits oxygen during its production and reduces carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. You know that nowhere in the world there is any machine which can absorb carbon dioxide from atmosphere and maybe fix it into ground. But this is a God-gifted arrangement. All tree does that, but bamboo does that much more than tree. Bamboo has a capability to sequester even to 200 tons of a carbon just in 1 year from 1 hectare of a plantation. The only limitation with bamboo is on its own is not a durable material. Bamboo is a material which consists of lot of starch and sugar. As long as starch and sugar is inside, some insect will come and eat it. Insect like a borer lays egg inside a bamboo even before you harvest a bamboo. Borer has a fantastic capacity to remain in the dormant stage for more than 6 months, 1 year. And it has a fantastic drilling capacity. So your enemy is sitting inside. Okay. So if bamboo is treated, then bamboo will last long. So whatever carbon is fixed inside the body of bamboo will remain inside that material is biodegraded. Okay. So if you are not treating bamboo, if you say you are using bamboo for making huts or making for a scaffolding, that bamboo will biodegrade in 5, 10, 15 years. And after that, all the carbon which is trapped inside will come again back into that atmosphere. But if you are treating that bamboo and using that treated bamboo for any product, then the carbon which is inside is going to remain inside for minimum 200 years. So anybody who uses any product made out of bamboo, he is responsible for keeping that carbon inside for additional 190 years. So if you are buying a pen stand in the market, bamboo made out of bamboo, somebody will treat that bamboo for you to make a pen stand durable. And because of that treatment, that carbon is going to remain inside for next 200 years. So the person who is buying that product is directly responsible for keeping that much carbon inside for additional 190 years. 10 years anyway, it will remain there, but additional 190 years, you are responsible for that. So bamboo is one of the most sustainable, eco-friendly material on globe. And India is the second largest bamboo producing country in the world. We have more than 10 million hectares of land under bamboo in our country. If you see land mass wise, we are the largest, because the largest bamboo producer in the world is China, but they grow bamboo only 5.4 million hectares of land, and we grow bamboo in 10 million hectares. Now, if India is the second largest by quantity and largest by area under bamboo, if you see international trade of a bamboo product, if you see the list, first top 10 in the world, India's name is not there. India's name is there on number 50. And a small country like Thailand, Singapore, and Indonesia is in first top 10. Of course, China is number 1, but no, the problem is this, that even Thailand and Indonesia is much above India. And if you see top importing country, bamboo product importing country, India's name is there. So India is the country who know how to make their own satellite, who know how to make their even nuclear submarines. But when question of bamboo product comes, we are not there. Something is missing. So we are not there in top 14 countries in the world. Now in India, we have 136 species of bamboo. Okay. And Government of India has declared 16 species as a species of commercial importance, keeping in mind that everybody should not start using the species he likes, and there should be some uniformity. Those 16 species are recommended by Government of India. Now, out of that, I will just, for example, I will take 3 species and talk about how these species can be used and how we uses this species as a structural material for bamboo construction. So the first species is Dendrocolumnus toxi, which is grown in Western Ghat mostly, in Sindhurga and Ratnagiri district of Maharashtra, then in Goa, then in Karwar district of Karnataka, and in Kerala. So this is the species which has a diameter of 40 to 50 mm. So you can call it a lesser diameter bamboo, with the wall thickness of 8 mm and usable length of 3 to 4 meter, not more than that. So this bamboo can be called as the bamboo with a lesser length and lesser diameter. Second bamboo is a Bambusa tulda, which grows very, very popular bamboo in Northeast called Jati in Assam, as local name. This has an average diameter of 50 to 70 mm. And a wall thickness at the length of say 5 meter is 10 mm. This bamboo has a total length of more than 40 feet. But if you want a wall thickness of 10 mm, you will get 5 meter of length. Third bamboo is Bambusa balkova, which is grown in West Bengal, some part of UP, Bihar, and northeast of course. This has a diameter ranging from 70 to 100 mm. Many times it is more than 100 also, up to 110 and 120. If you have the 5 to 6 meter length, at top you will have a diameter of 12 mm. So when I am telling you this specification, you may be a little bit confused. So let me show you some pictures. So this is a Dendrocarpus stocksy, which is 40 to 50 mm dia bamboo. This is Bambusa tulda, which is 50 to 70 mm dia bamboo. And this is Bambusa balkova, which is 70 to 100 mm dia bamboo. Now, let's talk about the grading of bamboo for a structural use. Because what happened that if you want to say use bamboo for a structural purpose, first thing you need to know that the grading parameters. No? So let's talk about that. The most important parameter is the species. Right now we are talking about the 3 species, stocksy, tulda, and balkova. Then the second most important parameter is the age of bamboo. So you need to understand the difference between growing pattern of a tree and growing pattern of bamboo. Bamboo achieves its full diameter and full length in just first 120 days of its growth. It's not like a tree. If you plant a tree, tree will keep growing for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, height-wise and diameter-wise. For bamboo, it will grow in just first 120 days. So if your plant is new, you may have a smaller diameter, smaller height, but it will grow for initial 120 days only. After that, a new shoot will come, that will grow, but the same bamboo will not grow. So bamboo achieved its full growth, diameter and height in just 120 days. After that, the fiber maturity starts. So depending upon how much mature fiber you want for your product, you have to cut the bamboo because you will get full length and diameter anyway in first 120 days only. So suppose you want to use bamboo for making mat, for doing weaving, you can cut bamboo at 1 year old age because you don't need much of the fiber strength there. If you are going to make a craft item, you can cut the bamboo at 2 year old age. For furniture, it should be 3 year old, and for construction, it should be 4 year old. Of course, this changes as per the species also, but you can call safely this as a thumb rule. If you want to use bamboo for making, say, ethanol, you can cut bamboo at 4 month old age. If you want to use bamboo shoot for eating, then cut it after 10 days. So age of bamboo is most important, and you have to keep this in mind that to know age of bamboo. No, you can only visually segregate if within 15 days of harvesting. Once it is dried, visually you cannot even make out what is the age of bamboo. Then you have to send one piece of a bamboo in a laboratory to find out what is the age of bamboo and spend around 5,000 rupees per pole to know age of bamboo. So if you want age graded bamboo, the grading should be done within 15 first, preferably 10 days of harvesting. Third parameter is the diameter of bamboo, and because bamboo is a tapering material, you need to look for what is diameter at bottom and what is diameter at top. So when you talk about the bamboo for a structural use, a diameter at bottom should be minimum 45 and diameter at the top should be minimum 35. This is again I am talking about major thumb rules, because depending upon your design, how you are using it, this can change. When you talk about minimum length, it should be minimum 4 meters. And when you talk about what is the allowable taper, because bamboo is a tapering material, you have to accept that. So allowable taper should be maximum 4 mm per meter length of bamboo. So per 1 running meter of bamboo, you can have 4 mm taper, not more than that. Bamboo on its own is not always straight. So for a construction, you need a straighter material, and to define the straightness, the maximum curvature should not be more than 75 mm in a length of 6 meters. And about the wall thickness, which is very, very important, wall thickness should not be less than 10. Because your wall thickness, whatever may be the diameter, if your wall thickness is less, bamboo will have tendency to crush or to split at the cut end. So wall thickness is a very, very important factor in grading structure use of bamboo. So this is a typical edge grading, which is done when bamboo is freshly cut. You need to have an expert who will visually recognize which is the bamboo, and this will change as per the species also. So if you are expert in recognizing the age of one particular species of bamboo, the same rule may not apply. So you should be very careful about defining age of bamboo. If you are while selecting, if your age grading is not proper, whatever treatment you do, whatever then joinery you use, you will be in trouble, because without having needed fiber maturity, using that material for construction is not going to work at all. Now let's talk about treatment of bamboo. And everybody should know that we have a proper IS code by Bureau of Indian Standard, how the bamboo for structural purpose should be treated. Okay. So many times people ask me that about the durability and who will certify. So everybody should know that if we have a proper IS code, anybody has any doubt, please refer it to the IS code. Now let's talk about method of treatment. Method of treatment can be broadly categorized into chemical methods and non-chemical methods, where no chemicals are used. So when you talk about traditional methods, there are where no chemical is used. There is leaching method, there is a lime washing method, and there is smoking method. So in a leaching method, the bamboo is a bundle of capillaries. And that capillaries start collapsing within around 48 hours of harvesting. So suppose you want to take out that starch and sugar inside, then whatever you are going to do, your treatment should start within 48 hours of harvesting. So leaching is the process where people, 100 years back, people used to harvest a bamboo and put it into flowing water. So you have to keep one thing in mind for this particular treatment, that bamboo should be immediately put in the water, and you cannot put bamboo in the water after, say, 3 days, 4 days, or 1 week. So if you harvest it and immediately put it into flowing water, what will happen is the all starch and sugar inside the bamboo will leach out. And why you need to put it within 48 hours immediately? Because the capillaries are going to be closed within 48 hours. So your capillary should be open to take out all the starch and sugar inside. So keep bamboo in a flowing water safely for a period of say 5 months. All the starch and sugar inside the bamboo will leach out, and then nothing left to eat inside for an insect. The bamboo will automatically become absolutely durable. No insect can come to eat it because there is nothing to eat, and this will last long for hundreds of years. Now, only problem is that now this type of facility which was available as a zero cost method 100 years back, today it is not available. Getting flowing water, keeping bamboo there for 4-5 months is a very, very difficult nowadays. And you need not have flowing water only, you can have a stagnant water also. But problem is in a stagnant water, no, stinking smell will start coming because the starch is dissolved in that water. Then your bamboo will have black stains. So that durability wise it will not have a problem, but you will have all these problems. Lime washing is the one method where you are actually putting bamboo into lime, water and lime mixture, or you want a temporary lesser durability, you can just do brushing or washing with the lime. And one more option is a smoking. So if you smoke a bamboo for say period of say 1.5 months in a controlled condition of controlling temperature and moisture, then that bamboo will become a foolproof. You don't need any other treatment. People used to keep a bamboo on the roof in kitchen where chulas was there, and that chula used to smoke bamboo. They used to keep it for say period of 1 year, and then that bamboo used to become absolutely durable. So these are the traditional methods available for treating bamboo, which are zero cost or no cost methods, but nowadays it's very difficult to have this type of treatment facility. So then we have only option but to use a chemical for a treatment. Now in that chemical method, there are again two categories. One is short-term duration. If you want durability for a short term, then you can have option of spraying, dipping, and brushing. So typical chemical like a CCB or boric borax can be sprayed. You can do some dipping and brushing. In that case, what is happening is you can get 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year's time durability, not more than that. Now, if you are talking about a long-term durability, then there are again two methods. One is a non-pressure method, and second one is a pressure method. So in a non-pressure method, you are impregnating water-based preservative inside the bamboo by maybe keeping storage tank at particular height and then connecting it to bamboo, or just soaking or diffusing bamboo, or there is a method called hot and cold method where you are actually hitting that preservative like say creosote, and one more method is a sap replacement. So these are the traditional non-pressure method. The only limitation with this method is controlling quality is not possible in this. So if you are treating bamboo for your own use and you want to suppose or treat 100, 200 bamboos, then you can, in presence of your presence, you can get it treated and say that, no, I can assure the quality. But somebody wants to treat a 5,000 bamboo, then controlling quality is very, very difficult in this work, because person who is involved in doing treatment will be responsible for that quality. And if we make a mistake, your end product needs to suffer. So now pressure treatment is the only treatment where you are creating pressure of 10.5 kg per centimeter square. So controlling quality is not the issue, because suppose you want to start the treatment within 2 days of harvesting. How you are going to make sure that that bamboo is harvested within 2 days? The person who is harvesting bamboo for you may tell you that he will have some problem, and then he will tell you that no, I have harvested bamboo yesterday only, and he may have harvested that bamboo 1 week back. So you don't know what is the reality, and then end result will suffer. So in a pressure treatment, you don't have to worry, because you are creating pressure to open up capillaries which are closed. So there is no condition that you start the bamboo treatment within so and so days. You can do it after 15 days, 1 month, because all the capillaries which are closed will be opened up, and that capillaries, once open up, you are impregnating preservative inside the bamboo. Now let's talk about the toxicant. There are some natural toxicant available, like giant Indian milkweed, which definitely works, but you will not get long-term protection with this. So if you want long-term protection, the only option is to use a chemical preservative. And in chemical preservative, yes, you have many options. Roughly, first option is a water boron based chemical. So water soluble boron based chemical, and in that also you have two options. One is non-fixing option, and other is a fixing option. So in a non-fixing option, suppose if you are using that bamboo in a interior condition, and water is not going to be splashed on the bamboo directly, rainwater, then you can always use a non-fixing water boron based chemical. The example is, say, boric borax. So if you are making treating bamboo for furniture, interior furniture, for any construction component which is interior and not in a ground contact, then you can definitely use non-fixing. But if you want to use the bamboo for in an exterior condition or in a ground contact, then you need to use a fixing type of water-based preservative, and it will have a chrome which will act as a fixing agent. So most famous fixing type of preservative are CCA, CCB, etc. You can have oil-based preservative also. Creosote is also oil-based preservative. You can have organic solvent-based preservative, and as we have said, we can have a natural toxicant also. So non-fixing type of preservative is a famous example, boric borax and copper sulfate. Keep in mind that if you use this treated bamboo outside, the chemical can leach out if water is directly splashed, and once the chemical is leach out, you can have again attack of a termite or any other insect. So this is non-fixing type should be used strictly in an interior condition. Now when you talk about fixing type, CCA, which is arsenic-based preservative, which is most effective preservative, but it is banned in many European countries. It is not banned in India, but we also suggest everybody, please don't use CCA. Then second best is the CCB, which is a boron base. Because CCA is an arsenic base and arsenic is a hazardous chemical. While treating bamboo, your staff may have uh, some side effects of that. So using CCB is comparatively safer. CCB is accepted wood preservative across the globe. Even European country uses CCB as a wood preservative. And because this is having a fixing agent, once you impregnate this preservative inside the bamboo, it will remain inside for much longer period, and uh, there is no scope of leaching it out. So that's why it is safe also, durable also, and as per our IS code 10013, you have all the needed standards of this CCB, and this can be a very good option for a treatment. Now let's talk about a pressure treatment. Now, pressure treatment is the method which is invented by Forest Research Institute, Dehradun in 1955. In 1955, Forest Research Institute, Dehradun has set up a treatment plant. They have treated bamboo, and out of that treated bamboo, they have constructed a building in 1956. From 1956 to till date, this building is absolutely intact. Not even one bamboo started decaying. So this is the methodology, technology developed by our scientists in India, and I see everywhere in the globe the same method for pressure treatment is used. Not even 1% of its methodology is changed after so many years. Such a fantastic research work done by our scientists in India, but somehow we never gave importance to all this local material and use of that. And in 1984, Canadian agency started doing research in bamboo, and then nowadays we use that Canadian manual, which tells you how to treat bamboo, of course giving complete credit to FRI Dehradun. But if you, this clearly shows that after even 65 years, not a one bamboo, 1% decay started, so it will definitely last long for 150 years. This is the treatment invented by us. We should start using it more and more and making it popular. So we implemented this pressure treatment plant in 2007 in Kudal. So at that point of time, there are not much successful bamboo pressure treatment plant in the country. So what we did is, with the help of a great bamboo preservative treatment scientist, Dr. Satish Kumar, he's no more now, he is from FRI Dehradun, based in Dehradun. With his active guidance, we set up this plant, and quickly we could optimize the methodology of treatment according to our species and our type of bamboo. And I can proudly tell you that we have treated more than 50 lakh pools in that treatment plant till date, and not a single bamboo got a complaint about any infection attack, any attack from any insect. So that type of consistency and the result which we could able to get with this Indian technology and completely Indian scientist who is globally acclaimed scientist, Dr. Satish Kumar. And thanks to him, and we should remember him as one of the great bamboo preservative scientists we ever had in the globe. Now, after treatment, so now once bamboo is treated, your bamboo is now durable. Okay. Now you need to make bamboo straight, because no, if you are using, say, doing construction and your material is not straight, so it will be very difficult for you to use that material for construction. So this is a very, very traditional and crude method of straightening the bamboo. You are just hitting that bamboo on fire. So when you start hitting, what happened is the lignin start liquefying. And once lignin is liquefied, you apply a pressure, then bamboo will change the shape. Then you apply again water to that part and make it cold, so that lignin again solidified, and then whatever change of shape you have, it will not retain 100%, but it will be retained around 50 to 60%. So this is the way of treating bamboo. But if your artisans are well trained, you can make bamboo like this. It's absolutely like a pipe. For that, you need patience, you need skill, because if you overheat it, outer skin of bamboo will burn. And if you underheat it and try to straighten it, it will crack. With the using same method, you can even bend bamboo like this. So now you see, you have the material which can be absolutely straight, which can be bent as per uniformly bent as per the radius you want. So once you have this material, which we call treated and graded bamboo, then doing bamboo construction is very, very easy. Now the question is whether this type of material is available everywhere or not. So when we started in 2007, it was not. Now Government of India is actively promoting this. In Maharashtra itself, you will get at least 3-4 locations, you get this type of treated material, treated and graded material. And intention is to create more and more centers like this. Now only thing is, now people should start using it, so that this type of facility will be used. So what we did is, when we had this facility, we started meeting the architects and asking them that why don't you use bamboo? So we used to ask them, sir, which is the most eco-friendly material or sustainable material on earth? So most of the architects used to tell us it's bamboo. Then we used to ask them that, sir, how many years you are doing this practice for architecture? He will tell 15 years, 20 years, 10 years. Then third question I used to ask him that, how much bamboo you have used in your career for any type of construction? So the typical answer was, no, we have not used bamboo. So then we used to tell them that, sir, use bamboo at least in landscape element. At that point of time, people used to tell me that, where is the artisans? There's no trained artisan available in India. People used to tell, where is a treatment facility? We don't have that. Where are the structural engineer who can design it? We don't have that. So all these people used to give us this excuses. So we thought that now it's time that we will do something. So we started as an NGO, Konkan Bamboo and Cane Development Center. We are not supposed to actually do that, but when we saw that nothing is happening, creating facility is not working, now we need to start doing this turnkey job also. And we started doing simple landscape element, keeping in mind that the product must be aesthetically beautiful and durable, both. So when you talk about bamboo, you go to Northeast, you will see aesthetically beautiful structure made out of bamboo, which is very cheap, but they are not durable. There are many organizations in our country which can give you very, very durable structure, comparatively cheap, but not aesthetically beautiful. They will look shabby. So if you are looking for a combination of Sundar Sasta Tikau, it is right now not available in bamboo. Uh, if you want aesthetically beautiful and durable, both combination together, it is not right now cheap. But we need to start using it. As we use more and more, the price is definitely going to come down, because more and more R&D, more and more people will put in their head, and ultimately when the dish antenna came to our India, the company named Sham Dish Antenna used to sell dish antenna at 7.5 lakh rupees. Today you get dish antenna at 750 rupees. So at 7.5 lakh rupees also, there are many people who bought that dish antennas. And that's why you see today that dish antenna at 750 rupees. So please start using bamboo. What you used to tell people, that you start using bamboo, the prices will come down. So we got an opportunity to work for a different clients, and we started making, slowly we thought that we should now make a building. So the easiest way to start is actually do the cottages, because cost of this type of bamboo building is more than normal cement concrete structure, and why buyer should pay more. So we thought that the tourism industry will get a value for money for this type of work, because they can charge more to their client, they will get better occupancy rate, and that idea worked, and we started doing various type of cottages for a different type of clients in different locations. And slowly people started appreciating our work. They're happy with what we are doing. But the only limitation I had is, people used to say that, oh, you make that bamboo hut. So I used to tell them that, boss, this is a very, very high-end, fully air-conditioned bamboo cottage. Why you are calling it as a bamboo hut? The cost of this one cottage is 13 lakh, 15 lakh. So why you are calling it hut? Just because it is made out of bamboo. So if I argue like this, the people used to say, okay, what you say is right. This is a cottage, not hut. Next time again I meet him, after some time he will again say, oh, you are the person who make that bamboo hut. So I started thinking, in spite of doing all this work, in spite of giving training to my artisans and trying to gain best of the aesthetics out of that, no, people is calling it hut. Then what is the motivation to my artisans? Because typically bamboo artisanship is normally linked with the lowest caste of the society. So there was a stigma in a younger generation to start working with bamboo as a material. So we could able to bring in lot of glamorization, we could able to change that scenario. But if you don't give respect to the artisan, and second is the money, not only respect is not going to work. So respect and good money, then only you will find best of the people doing, best of the people who has the skill, special skill, is doing this type of work, and then end result you will see the much better product. So we thought that now to change this scenario, we need to work more and change the overall perception as a bamboo hut. To tell you about how typical construction is done, so say about the foundation, the first option is make a column of bamboo just like any other metal or semi-concrete column. So you dig a pit, put a bamboo mesh, then put a bamboo column, and you can put boulders for and fill the pit. Because bamboo structure is light in weight, so you have to worry about not blowing it off. So you need to anchor it down, and by using this type of column, you can do that. And this type of column can be used where no cement concrete construction is allowed, like CRZ coastal regulations or areas or forest areas or sanctuaries, like all this area you can use this. Second option is to, again, same method, but addition is a ferrocement band. This method is invented by IIT Delhi, and here you can use just a ferrocement band, and all other thing is bamboo. So even just because you are using that band, this much cement is allowed in any non-construction zone area. Third option is to putting your column directly into the concrete. Now, while doing this, you have to keep in mind that when you put a bamboo directly into concrete, whatever treatment you do for a preservation, it may be CCP, CCA, pressure treatment, during concreting, bamboo will absorb the water, it will swell. After water goes off, it will contract, it will create a crack between your concrete. There will be not good bonding because bamboo is a very, very outer skin of bamboo is having a lot of silica. So whatever bamboo you are putting inside the concrete needs to be made completely water repellent. And that can be made by applying a secondary treatment of hot and cold creosote method. Hot and cold creosote is the method where you need to boil the creosote. Of course, creosote is an inflammable material and you have to boil, but that is the only option. So creosote is a typical combination of diesel and coal tar. So if you apply that method, that portion of bamboo will be completely water repellent. Then you put it inside the concrete. It will not absorb any water, and this type of arrangement will work well. Second option is to fix a T-shaped plate on a cement concrete band, plinth band, and on that plate you can nut bolt, with the help of nut bolt, fix the bamboo columns, and this type of structure will be called as a dismantable, theoretically dismantable structure, and it is allowed even though you are actually not going to dismantable, but this will be called as a government called as a dismantable structure. So this type of bamboo skeletons can be made. Second is walls. You can flatten the bamboo to make a wall. Flattened bamboo can be pressed on any type of board. It can be a cement fiber board, it can be eco board, it can be WPC. And a flattened bamboo can be pressed in two different methods. The top one is a cold press, where you will have 3D effect of bamboo, and the bottom one is a hot press where it is absolutely flat board. In a roof, you can use a shingle. Flattened bamboo shingle is a very, very popular material in Colombia, Bali, Vietnam. Not in India. We have started using this material for the last few years, and this aesthetically this looks very good. This is a 4-layered roof. Of course, cost-wise, this is cost is very, very high, but aesthetically it will have very good effect. So we decided that we will try to do a bigger buildings with bamboo. We approached to our structural engineer who has been trained in Colombia, and he told me that, Sanjeev, that if you should bring bamboo and tell me that these bamboo are from so and so species, how will I will come to know that the data which is given for that particular species, bamboo belong to that species only. So there is no way that you can, and you cannot test each and every bamboo. Okay. So he decided that let's have a 1:1 size bay, and we will do live load testing, and after that only I will certify the structural stability, and I can give a design calculation to the client, because ultimately the design calculation needs to be also submitted to the client for getting a confidence that yes, this is possible. Yes, whatever you are doing is technically safe. So we did that, and then we decided to have a prefabrication unit in Kudal, in Sindhur district at our place, where all components are prefabricated, just like metal components. And this is the dendrochromis toxi, which is supposed to be low diameter bamboo. We started using that to making even a bigger structure. Once all these these elements are then packed and sent through a bigger trailer to a site, and this is an actual erection of that structural components on site. So you see that we can actually we started doing much bigger span structure. So the major breakthrough we got is in Hyderabad, where one of the builder asked us to do 10,800 square feet of a clubhouse for their villa project, and that was a real breakthrough because this is a 64 feet span structure. So the complete roof is done in bamboo, and this is the first instance where we could able to demonstrate that yes, with Indian bamboo and Indian manpower, you can really have aesthetically beautiful and durable structure with a fairly large span. So after successful completion of this project, we started getting multiple projects, and I was talking to Forest Minister of Government of Maharashtra, requesting him that, sir, we have constructed 10,800 square feet of a building in Hyderabad. Let's have one bigger building in Maharashtra. So he asked me that, you know, what size you are thinking? I said that, sir, at least let's have 12,000 square feet. So he asked me, why not 1,20,000 square feet? I said, that is great, sir. So he said that let's have 1,20,000 square feet of complete campus in bamboo in Maharashtra. And we also felt that acceptance from government will make all the difference. So this project is of a forest department. It's a research institute executed by PWD. Luckily, we are fortunate enough that this project got support from Ratan Tata himself. Tata Trust is a project management agency in this project. They have taken responsibility of selecting designer and making all that arrangement. And fortunately, we got this work built. So this is more than 1 lakh square feet of campus is nearly completed now. 95% of the work is already completed. And now in India, you have a project where you can demonstrate that yes, proper bamboo building with large spans, multi-story, with different type of structures and different type of joinery and different type of species. So this is a Bambusa bulkova, what you see here. This is a Dendrochromis toxi. So this is a 100 mm dia bamboo and this is a 50 mm dia bamboo. So altogether different type of species, different type of joinery, different type of vocabulary. So this gives us a confidence that yes, in India, we can do bigger structures in bamboo and people start appreciating it. PWD was the executing agency, was absolutely helpful and supportive to make this successful, and I'm very, very thankful to all the engineers of PWD to really help us to do this type of work in India. There was always worry that everybody has to tell me that no, PWD is not the right partner because you need to do so many things new first time, and how PWD can help you. But actually, we got altogether different experience from PWD, and this project is nearly completed now. After doing this, there is a major question is about the pricing, because we need to prove that yes, our pricing is competitive. So we decided to go outside India and bid with the strong player outside India. So we got the opportunity to work for this resort in Maldives. The restaurant is in bamboo. We got that work, and we have bent bamboo in our workshop. Then we prototype it in our workshop at Kudal, and this is the actual work on actual site. So we could able to complete this work, and this particular work has been recognized as a world's top best 16 waterfront restaurant by CNN UK. So we could able to prove that yes, with Indian bamboo and Indian manpower, you can actually go outside and compete with the China, Indonesia, and Philippines, and do much better and at a competitive rates work. And we are extremely happy that India can do it. We have shown that yes, India can do it, and we don't have to now worry about the competition, what China is going to do. Our manpower, our bamboo is really sufficient to compete with any other player across the world. The only limitation in this particular work was this is a handcrafted type of work. So you, even though the bigger building is done, but its method is crafting, and that's why it is not replicative. So we got a chance where we said that we will now change the method of doing it, and we will do bamboo building just like any other pre-engineered building. Typically, pre-engineered building is done in metal. We said that we will do it in bamboo. The chance is given to us by Raja Rajeshwari Temple Trust from Karnataka. Thanks to Mahaswamiji, who could able to visualize this. This is a bankway which we are constructing for them with a 500 people sitting capacity, 24 meter of a span, and all the components are made in our factory like this, and this is the actual erection on site. Now you will see that the accuracy which we achieved, the methodology and all these things achieved is absolutely as per the any pre-engineered metal building. We could able to join hands with Jans Bamboo, our joint venture partner, to bring in best of the manpower, best of the systems in place, so that this could be made possible. And now I am extremely happy that we could able to take this bamboo construction to a level where this is just like any other pre-engineered building with very, very high class artisan with 100% accuracy. So this accuracy we could able to bring in using non-uniform raw material. And that is hats off to my all artisans who are highly trained, committed. They are just like a family to us. So this is about bamboo construction. We are into bamboo handicraft also. I will quickly show you the type of product we do. We thought that the corporate gifting should be with the eco-friendly raw material. We started doing this, got a good response from the people. Then we thought that why not mementos in bamboo, because typically mementos are done with acrylic, plastic, glass, metal. So we started doing this. Then we started exploring possibility of using bamboo lighting, which we got excellent response from the people. Then we have ventured into bamboo furniture. This is our furniture manufacturing unit at Kudal, and we do it in numbers. And these are the so all this furniture is without any metal nail. All the nails used here are bamboo pegs, so it will have fantastic durability. We started using different color, keeping in mind the taste of the customer. Started using different material like a jute weaving and all this, and of course cushioning. So all this got excellent response from the client, and we are happy that people are accepting this type of product. We need to know about bamboo strip board also. This type of bamboo is also grown in our country. This is 90 feet tall bamboo with a diameter of say 120, 130 mm. The only limitation with this bamboo is less of a diameter, so it cannot be used directly as a construction material. So you can make strips of this bamboo by splitting and then making it four-sided planing in a machine. And if you press it together, this is a bamboo board which will have a density of more than Burmatic, dimension stability more than Burmatic, and screw holding and nail holding capacity at par with Burmatic. We are fortunate enough to get support from Ratan Tata ji to do needed R&D in a strip board in India. We have converted the bamboo from Karnataka, which is a species called Brindisi, into this type of board, and then converted that board into furniture. All this furniture is made with Indian bamboo, 100% bamboo, and no, you can do carving, engraving, molding, everything is possible. And then we got a chance to do work for Infosys. This is a VVIP guest room, Infosys CEO's guest room at Gachibowli campus in Hyderabad. Right from flooring to roofing panel, everything here what you see is bamboo. So this proves that yes, bamboo can literally compete with wood in any form, and this gives us a confidence that yes, no, we can do it with Indian bamboo also. Now there was a major question that how to change the perception of poor man timbers of bamboo. So we are fortunate that Bengaluru International Airport phase 2 work coming up. This is a T2 in the design of a T2. This is 255,000 square meter of a terminal, completely to be done in a bamboo interior. American company is doing this, and American architect has designed this. Work is already started, expected to be completed in next 1.5 years. And with this, I am very sure that overall image of bamboo is going to be changed, and no, bamboo will be a rich man's privilege in our country. Now the major question is how to train young minds, and yes, we are doing that work also. We do conduct various type of workshop where students from India, abroad, or architects, architect students and other students also participate. And I'm very sure that now younger generation has to come forward to start using this material and making it mainstream. And I am seeing that yes, there is a very good response from a younger generation, and I'm very sure that time will come that in bamboo, in India, bamboo will be fashion in our country. Thank you very much.
That was brilliant. It was breathtaking, though in the initial stages, as you presented some of those slides on the technical aspects of it, you must have had some interest sagging. Everyone is impatient to see, you know, the aesthetics and the kind of technical fusion that you have brought. Many questions for you, Sanjeev. Thank you once again. One of them is, when you do these large spans from 64 feet structures to things that you have done at 25 meters and so on, how much of the inputs have come from the architects, the presiding architects of the project, or the structural consultants of the project? Yeah, or has it been completely yours as design goes?
So typically, we tell architect that if you don't have experience with working with bamboo, the best way is, before designing anything, let's sit together, structural engineer, my team, and architect's team, and try to understand the plus and minuses of the material. Once he understands that, then designing is very, very easy. Many times what happened is architect come up with his own idea, and then structural engineers and my team needs to tell him that this will not work. So if architect don't have that experience, we need to do that. Now luckily in India we have few architects who have this needed experience and they don't need this support. So basically, you need to know from us what is allowed and what is not allowed, and then only you can decide.
Right. Well, before I take the next question, let me acknowledge the presence of some of the senior green leaders in the country. Sandeep Sikre is here. He's the chairman of the Indian Green Building Council from Bombay. Jaimini Oberoi from Rajasthan, the chairman there is there. Manoj Kar from Bhubaneswar is also here. See, these are all people who are pushing the frontiers of technology, Sanjeev. And
Yes.
one of the things that architects, as you know, have as a big challenge is this serious threat of execution. And how do we have, one question that has come from somebody is, how do we have many more Kudals and Sanjeev Karpes? There are one young entrepreneur is asking, how do I do what Sanjeev sir is doing? Are there things that Inbar will help me understand? Or does he have any training programs for young entrepreneurs like me?
So from my side, I will tell you that please come to us. If you come to my factory, you don't need permission also. There is no guard. So come, do filming, do photography, whatever you want to learn, please do it. Even though this is right now monopoly for us, but we don't treat that. No, more and more people should come and learn it and do it. Then only we will have future in bamboo in India. Government of Maharashtra has already started a Bamboo Research and Training Center at Chandrapur. You have a proper training program there, 45 days training program, 6-month training program, 2-year training program, and expected to start even a degree courses soon.
Wonderful. One more question. Have you explored the possibility of using bamboo instead of steel as reinforcement for roofs?
So you have to keep in mind that if you are using bamboo as a reinforcement, bamboo will absorb water during concreting, it will swell, then it will contract. To avoid that, you need to make bamboo first durable and second bamboo water repellent. If you do all these things, bamboo will be very, very costly. And bamboo and cement concrete together is one acidic and one alkaline material. If you put it together, no, that is also not good idea. So you have to keep this limitation and think out of the box and keep trying, and definitely we'll find some solution.
Sure. That question was from Aurobindo Gupta. Now you have another question from Mallika PV. When you build such large structures with high, with heights of the kind that you have, what about maintenance of these things? And you use boric and other things to treat. If there is a risk of such things sort of failing over some 6 or 7 years or 10 years, what would you do as O&M?
So about maintenance, for durability, you don't need any maintenance. If bamboo is pressure treated, next 100 years, you are not going to do anything for durability. Okay?
Right.
For aesthetics, yes, you keep clean any other structure, any other material, and then apply some varnish or PU or whatever once in a 5 years. That is for aesthetics. You can do it as per your need, but for durability, you don't need any maintenance.
Right.
And about the failing, in last say 12 years, I have treated more than 50 lakh poles. My scientist used to always tell me that please send me, Sanjeev, at least one sample which is failed, so that we can learn something. And I could not able to send him even one piece of bamboo in last last 12 years after treating more than 50 lakh poles. So there is absolutely, if you do it properly, there's absolutely no chance of failing.
So the demand for skills and training is very high in this business, unlike in the conventional building sector. Is that right? Yes.
You are right. And we have to keep this in mind, that the approach which we took, we said that if you want good artisan, they should be paid handsomely. The person who has a good skill, if he goes for some other work, he will get better. So I am proud that my highest paid artisan is 45,000 rupees per month. We have 90 artisans who have been paid at 45,000 rupees per month. We need to give them good. If they are best, you have to give them good. And client should be ready to pay that. You don't expect that you will get good artisan at 10 or 15,000 rupees per month. Even carpenter also you don't get at that price.
I agree.
Carpenter, you always pay them more. Just like use the same rule here also. There's
Fair.
no
Now that takes me to, you know, a boring question. Somebody has three people have asked this question. When you do some of those remarkable buildings that you have done, what is the cost per square foot that you achieve? How compatible is it to conventional structures, if they are, I mean, if that such a comparison at all is possible?
So I tell everybody that if you compare terracotta and cotton, no?
Exactly.
So
Okay, I will leave it
terracotta
there.
is 3 times of cotton.
Okay,
So to
fair.
somebody who wear cotton shirt, he know why to pay that much.
I got
So
you.
if you don't know that difference, please use cement concrete. Don't use.
Absolutely. I think you said it very well when you said bamboo is today a rich man's privilege from being at one point of time a poor man's resort. One more question from an eminent leader, a wonderful green leader called Manikandan. He heads something called the India Housing Federation. His question is on safety. One is on the safety in terms of fire and such things into the future post installation. The other is at work when you're constructing such things at heights. What are safety precautions your officers take and your skilled
So
craftsmen
about
take?
during construction, we do take all safety precautions just like any other building you do. So proper safety belts, and we use cranes and all these things has been just like any other building.
Fair enough.
About the fire safety, yes, the code which we have for construction with bamboo do mention about the fire safety
Right.
precaution to be taken. That gives you retardancy of 45 minutes at 1200 degree. So these are the chemicals which are added in preservative chemicals to make bamboo fire retardant for 45 minutes at 1200 degrees temperature.
Okay. This is a question from a person called Prem Bajaj. Well, I'll make it simple. I know you presented things that you have done in Maldives and things that you have done in hot and humid as well as hot and dry conditions. Are you saying, therefore, that your structures post-treatment, the way that you have been doing this, can be done anywhere, temperate or tropical?
It can be done anywhere. Only thing is selection of species is very, very important.
Right.
So don't expect that one rule is going to apply everywhere. So while you are selecting a species, you should know that why you are selecting that and
Sure.
in which condition it is to be used.
Sure. Okay. A question that you may not want to answer, perhaps our Niranjan Khatri might want to take this. Why is it that conventional housing techniques have simply forgotten such deep-rooted traditional architecture systems? And what does it take for us to bring such a change in the marketplace? Niranjan?
Well, I think people have got used to brick and mortar and they think that's a superior material compared to this.
I agree with you. In late 1960s, when RCC came to India, the people were extremely reluctant to use it. They were used to the old Turkey and lime and mortar systems, where there was no steel. And today, you ask them to go away from RCC, these guys are reluctant. Something wrong with the way human beings behave. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Hari, with your permission, I have a few questions for...
Please.
I have many questions, but maybe I'll confine it to some very critical...
Sure. And our listeners will also benefit from your perceptive questions. Yeah.
Ideally, I'd like to see bamboo being used in cycles, car bodies, hospital and hostel beds, etc. And the other input for Sanjeev is that, we have a lot of construction going on in the country, and the kind of housing which is there for the construction labor needs wanting can be designed for disassembly, so that if I'm a builder, I set up the neat, dignified homes, and after the project is over, I disassemble and take it somewhere else. It's an advantage for the construction company also, and it brings dignity to this particular subject. Number one. Okay,
yes.
if you can answer this, then I'll ask you the next question.
Yeah, so this is absolutely possible. Only thing we have to keep in mind that the first one who is going to do that need to spend a lot of money for design development. on about the joinery, about we may need a metal joints in this. So all this thing is no shortcut in this. And anybody who is really serious about sustainability should do that, should spend some money and at least do porta cabins in bamboo. I always request everybody that, boss, please practice sustainability here. And depending upon your capacity, if you don't have much of the money, spend 150 rupees and buy one pen stand. That is also a drop in the ocean. So we have to be at least drop in the ocean. If we are not even drop also, we don't have any right to talk about bamboo and about the sustainability. So my request to everybody that if you don't, you are not ready to spend more money, buy at least pen stand here and take an experience how it behaves, no, how the treatment behaves. No? That is what my request will be.
Yeah, my next question is, we have a lot of stress and agri-stress also. So how do we kind of use the migrants who have gone back home and create a bamboo movement in the villages? And is there any thumb rule of how many jobs will be created for every ton of bamboo used? Is there any thumb rule?
So I will like to put it in this this way, that typically if you are making a bamboo furniture, the labor cost will be 30 to 40%. If you talk about, say, furniture made out of timber, it will not be more than 10%. It is 4 times of that compared to timber, which is the nearest material which can be compared with bamboo. So that is the advantage. Second advantage is bamboo will be grown in the villages. It needs a lot of space and a lot of manpower. That is a strength of our country. We should use it, and people start using the bamboo product, and everything will fall in place.
Okay. The third request to IGBC and CREDAI, if there are CREDAI members in this conference, is that can they set a target that the builder will use at least 50% of bamboo in their projects in some form or the other, so that the business gets a stimulus on a scale?
Sir, I will say that let's start using 1% of bamboo.
If you have ambition,
that is not happening for last 20 years. And so my expectation is, please tell people to use 1% bamboo, things will automatically move. If you tell them 50%, they may not. So, ask them, compel them to use 1% of bamboo at least.
If you tell them 50%, if they do 20%, that will be changing. One more question. What will be the temperature inside a bamboo house? And will it have air conditioning? Suppose it's built in Delhi.
So typically what happened, bamboo is a hollow material. So inside is the cavity, and bamboo is a woody grass. So it gives you advantage. So typical temperature difference will be 6 to 8%, provided how you are going to use bamboo. Many times bamboo is not used in a round form. Then you are losing that advantage of cavity inside, and you are not getting two walls, woody walls of that thickness. So, but definitely you will get a difference of 4 to 8% in a bamboo house.
Sanjeev, when it comes to the shear factor or the wind factor, especially in parts like Odisha, there's a young man asking this question. How does it take it eventually, and how do you plan your structures in a way that such regions can also, host bamboo structures?
I would like to proudly tell you that in 2013, World Bank gave us a project to be erected in Odisha at Chilika Lakefront in Barkur.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you know that the Chilika Lakefront is a zone 5 of cyclonic zone.
I've seen that structure, yes.
We have completed that project, and immediately after completion of that project, that super cyclone came, which is Hudud.
Mm.
And 230 kilometers per hour, all our structure are intact, not even 1% damage was there. Right. So our bamboo structures are tested for super cyclone also.
So that answers Chirag Rana's question. Another question for you. Someone says, at your pressure plant now, how do you manage the effluent water and effluent waste?
Sir, in this, the best part of this pressure treatment plant is this, there is a zero effluent, because the same preservative can be used again and again 10,000, 20,000 times by just correcting concentration. So you don't have to throw out even a single drop. You don't have to clean your tanks also, because it's a preservative, so there is no question of cleaning. So keep using it just by adding concentration, checking every time. So this is a fantastic solution, inbuilt solution.
Yeah, you know, like you said, you are a monopoly in many ways, but you are an open house. You're saying, please come and learn, and if you can't do things elsewhere, you please do it. Question to you is your own social enterprise planning to see how they will scale what you're doing? If you're doing 1x today, can you do 10x? The other is, how do you have replication with methodology for, you know, such processes being evolved?
So we had this question in 2007, and we always thought that we should be replicable and scalable. So in 2008, we had a joint venture with Lavasa to set up a factory of producing bamboo furniture. Then we had a joint venture with ICICI Foundation. Then we have a joint venture with Tata Trust. We have done project in Palghar district in tribal area with tribal development, and now we are doing one project in Latur with Phoenix Foundation. So as this is a replicable, we do replicate it, and all our projects are luckily successful. So I'm very sure that more and more people should come forward and do it, and we'll be very happy to help anybody who wants.
Fair. You know, one person writes in called Sunny Daniel, you know, the kind of work that you do on bamboo boards just now, how scalable is that? Because that's a massive market. And if you are doing today, and if others were to be able to also be enabled into doing it, you know, you would have mainstream bamboo a lot more.
Yes, sir. China is doing that for last 15 years with 60,000 crore rupees annual turnover. Unfortunately, right from 2002 to date, there are 14 different factories came up in India, and out of that 12 factories defined now. Major player in our country like Kitply and AB Composite is not successful in bamboo making this. Right. But now with the Tata's intervention, we could able to do it, and then we have proven that it is possible. Now there are two factories, one in Assam and one in Tripura, which are working well. We are doing it in Sindhuru district of Maharashtra, but this needs a separate type of bamboo grown by farmer, which is hollow. So that will take 3 to 4 years, so that farmer will start growing that bamboo. When they do it, it will be definitely scalable. But this is again a chicken and egg story. If you tell farmer that grow bamboo, they will not do it without factory in place.
Sure. Well, Niranjan Khatri, my last one to you. We have 2 minutes. I will, of course, offer you some time on this one. You know, you asked me 3 weeks ago, what do we do to mainstream bamboo? And then, you know, we talked about how we'll get Sanjeev Karpe to come and present what he has presented today. I'm seeing lots of inquiries, Sanjeev. You know, they want your mail ID and such things. We will see what we will do at the Premchand Memorial Trust to facilitate you and them to see that, you know, they sort of reach out to you. Niranjan, you have to now speak to tell us of what Sanjeev actually represents for the future, for these youngsters who are listening today.
He's a lighthouse in the bamboo domain. And my request to Sanjeev is that how do you create 100 franchisees of your quality in the next 2 years?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Number one. Number two, another question to Sanjeev is that, have you tried to interact with the Indian Railways to see that bamboo is mainstream in the passenger coaches?
Sir, RDO has already approved bamboo mat board roofing sheet. And this sheet has been produced in West Bengal by somebody. So the process is already started. Now we need to take it forward.
Great. All good things. Yeah. Go on, please.
Sanjeev, an excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't thank you enough. And I can't thank all the wonderful people who are present I can't take their names, but lots of very, very senior people are here. My regret is that many more people who ought to have been present here from various colleges as well as from the faculty have lost a great opportunity to listen to Sanjeev Shashikant Karpe today. What I would recommend you all to do is to go back to the PremJainMemorialTrust.com, check this out. By tomorrow, we will have hosted the recording there, and listen to it. Think about it. You heard Niranjan Khatri Sahab saying that we need 100 franchisees that a genius like Sanjeev Karpe can bring. Remember, he's an electrical engineer. Now, what on earth is he doing with bamboo? What was his tryst with bamboo? When did he start beginning to work with it? He says about 16, 17 years ago, and he's not too old either. So there are things that you can do to innovate India. This whole series is about such iconic India innovations. To talk about Made in India becomes a platitude, becomes a mere slogan, if we don't actually begin to be proud, as he was, with that original research direction that in 1955, the Forest Research Institute, Dehradun, provided. I'm so happy to know that the Kerala FRI is also present here in this discussion today. All good things have to come to an end, as I said. It's 12:16. Thank you so much once again, Sanjeev Karpe and Niranjan Khatri, for being here today.
Thank you,
and for
Hari.
making this happen. And thank you, all of you listeners. We will meet again 2 Thursdays from now. It's an alternate Thursday series, and we have another remarkable person. Trust me on this, a wonderful person called Vikas, who is going to be presenting that alternate Thursday from here today. Sign off from the Living Building studio. Thank you so much. This is Hari Haran.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you, Hari.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.